I'm Shoshy Rockman, and I'm here for this panel about the poetry of performance, and that's exactly what you'll get, more reading than talking. It's such a lucky audience. I'm going to introduce our poets in alphabetical order. We've got Magdalena Ball, there. Eva Collins next to me. Louise Helfgott over here. And Alex Skovron at the end. Okay. I'm going to introduce Magdalena first. She comes from an artsy family, and her uncle, Ricky Ian Gordon, a composer, gave her a 4-pack of books of poetry when she was 12. Plus Ariel, Rimbaud's A Season in Hell, Brecht's Manual of Piety, and Sexton's Live or Die. She was so pleased to have such grown-up and wholly inappropriate books gifted to her that they are still very much beloved. We first met when she reviewed my debut poetry collection with her inimitable insight and generosity. You're going to read for us?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to read 3 poems from my book, Bobbish, which is a verse memoir of my great-grandmother who left the Pale of Settlement when she was 14 years old and arrived at Ellis Island. And the first poem, Empire Erased, which I'm going to read, is Rebecca's arrival at age 14 after that long journey on Ellis Island. It was over in an hour, 1,000 people in an hour. Who dared count the weary passengers disembarking from the cramped steerage? Zwischendeck, lips cracked from sea salt. Bribes, promises, as many illicit exchanges as there were people, as there were dreams, not so much of something better, but of safety. Someone has to survive to pass on the story. They kept on moving, checkpoint to checkpoint, fingers probing hair, no lice. Clothing, old, stiff. Cough, lean forward, raise arms, keep going. An empire was erased, just like that. She would never go back. There were people left behind, of course, in the ghetto of her youth, the shtetl, writing names in the air with a finger, waiting for her to send a handful of prepaid tickets if the streets really were paved with gold. Words were cobblestones beneath her feet, 31 questions in a language she didn't speak. Name, sex, age, nationality, health, how much money was in her pocket? Was she dangerous? At 5 foot tall with arms like matchsticks, hooded eyes concealing more pain than a malnourished body should be able to hold, how do you answer? She tried and failed to forget her mother's wet eyes, her father's hastily gathered bag of coins, cousins, uncles. Of course they existed somewhere, but who knows what happened to them? Their sacrifices, their losses, they're gone. Were they ever there? Keep up the pace. She tried to speak, but the words didn't fit her mouth. There were no papers, only a brown tag pinned to the shoulder, containing a number like you might put on a cattle. She wasn't for sale. Her number wasn't up this time. Thank you. Okay, the next poem I'm going to read is called Every Poem is a Lie. And in this poem, I introduce the antagonist a little bit as well, who's my great-grandfather, Simon Sandberg. There is no dissembling here, no truth to be verified in a court of what did and didn't take place. There is only desire. This is where it begins. It may be that all there is to know has already been uncovered and there is only conjecture from here on in. So why not go straight to where it hurts? Where it hurts is the point of entry, a wormhole. There is no such thing as time. We talk of passing, cause and effect, tag something as a beginning arbitrarily. We cannot live unbounded. And so, 1, arrival, disembarking a crowded ship, dirty, hungry, not just for food, into a new life, two people unknown to one another, linked by proximity, nostalgia or anguish, dark heads with different dreams. Two. They both entered the job market within a week. The census said fishmoker. For her, nothing. Though we know she was a seamstress, working without formalities, a tiny job in a big space. It always comes down to profits. He was an educated man, brother, dancer, linguist, gaucho, a woman's man masquerading as a man's man, weighed down by herrings, lox, whitefish. You'd be surprised at what needs to be smoked. It was hard work. Honest, that's what they called it. It paid the rent, just. Hers was a world where shirts mattered, labor was needed, her hands small enough. No one wrote it down. Nowadays they say undocumented. Words break down under scrutiny. 3. The beginning of something else. Let's call them hobbies. Or perhaps that's too glib. Ancillary activities. For him, a nightly tipple. Bootleg whiskey, a flutter, extra cash. For her, the reading of tea leaves. These are voices that might endure under the right kind of pressure, like diamonds. What if she pays some of the bills from her readings? A small group of regulars lining up to learn the future. It might be a lie, magic, or something entirely different, born of everything she left, soft crooning, Schloff meine Fegele. The story will not end here. Though time is illusory, we have to begin. She opens the window of her tiny apartment and light fills the kitchen. Okay, this last poem, we all grow up with family mythologies, and this one was one of the family mythologies that I grew up with. I don't know how I knew it. We don't know how we know the family mythologies. They just get passed down. But this family mythology was that Rebecca worked at the very ill-fated Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York City. If you haven't heard of it, it was the worst industrial accident in U.S. history. Sure. The factory burnt to the ground. Many people died. And it gave rise to some very important critical industrial reforms. Rebecca did not go to work on the day of the factory fire. And I did know another family mythology was that she read tea leaves, so I was playing with those ideas. The poem is called A Careless Cigarette. March 25th, 1911. She cannot find the energy to lift the curtain. The lamplight flickers. It's not yet morning, and if she doesn't get up, she will lose her job. The room is unheated, a clawfoot bathtub in the kitchen. She bathes quickly using water from the stove. Above her, faded wallpaper peels from the corner. Steam condenses. He has already left. Morning is a silent affair. There are no children yet, but they are coming, coming, coming. Though it all hangs in the balance, at this moment where she has yet to decide. She tries to eat, but she's dizzy. Work to home, home to kitchen, kitchen to bed, a simple equation that doesn't add up on this day. They need the money, but her head wavers like fever. Shtetl dreams, a rooster forever crowing, the neighbor's dog, the smell of black tea which she has overbrewed this morning of all mornings, black leaves congealing into a warning. She drops the cup, tea spilling onto the floor, crawls back into bed, her small body heavier than it will ever be again, weighed down with prescience. She shivers and sleeps through the day. Her mind plays tricks. In her dreams, she sews shirts. Long rows of machines fill the top floor of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, where they lock the exits so the girls won't take a break or leave without first emptying their pockets and handbags for the groping foreman. She is not the only one who speaks little English, her back hunched over flammable white cotton. The teacup remains broken on the floor, where the fish smoker will find it, returning home with the news that the factory has burnt down. 146 fellow workers, burnt and asphyxiated, pushing against doors which would not open, broken on the concrete below where they jumped, living torches inside the cordon. She wakes to find out that she has lost her job, but not her life. He will bend that day with gratitude, later forgotten. Clean up the spilled tea and broken china. However he arranges the pieces, he cannot repair the cup or the cracks that have opened beneath her skin.
Good.
Wow, thank you. I do have a few questions, but I'm just going to ask one, and then I'll come back to more if we have time at the end. But my first question was in Empire Erased and Every Poem is a Lie. I noticed this juxtaposition of the huge against the tiny, the many against the few, when it comes to spaces, places, and feelings. Is this a conscious technique to emphasise a sense of futility or randomness, or just something else altogether?
Well, you know, when I was working with all the material that I had for Rebecca's story, all the research that I developed, I was trying to find what form to use to write it in. And in many ways, when you're working with historical information, particularly information that encompasses trauma, it encompasses gaps, so many gaps, you know, that you can't, I couldn't ask her, she's long dead, I never met Rebecca, I knew my grandmother, her daughter, but I didn't know Rebecca. There was little material to work with. I couldn't go back to Grodno, the town she left, because all the people who were there were killed. If they didn't get killed during the pogroms that she left, they would have been killed during the Holocaust. So the whole town, all the Jews in the town were rounded up and taken into the forest and killed. So I had to play with those notions of the great trauma, the smallness of her life, the domestic life, the world she inhabited, her pain, and yet how this bisected a very big, grand historical context, the context of the Jews, the context of the pogroms, the context of, you know, all of the things that we carry as human beings. And so poetry was the only form that I could find that allowed me that juxtaposition. And I think you'll find it when you hear in the other poems that are being read, that poetry allows those multiplicity, the joy and the trauma, the small and the big, the little details of the kitchen or of the pain, or, you know, all of those things can coexist. And that's why I chose to use this form to play, to work with.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to introduce Eva, a vivacious, quirky writer and photographer who gets excited by seeing familiar situations in a new way, noticing unusual configurations. Her words, she says, often these are fleeting images. We never know when or where they will appear, but we do know that they will disappear, and often much too soon. Photography freezes precious moments and allows us to immerse ourselves in their power. Eva has studied psychology, philosophy, poetry, and photography, which she sees as linked in the pursuit of the mysterious essence of things. And please read for us.
Thank
Eva.
you. That's well. How do I know? Oh, that's. Okay, I already called 3 poems, and they're very short. I'm starting off as a 12-year-old. I just passed 12 years when we left Poland during the Cold War. Midnight. We're already in a train, Russian train, going to Czechoslovakia and then Austria, where we'll get off. Border guards stamp the train walls, shine torches beneath its carriages. Alsatian dogs sniff for anyone clutching the underbelly. My parents tell me sometimes people hide there. It's their only way out of Poland. Me, what if they fall off? Dead, ask no questions. I wonder why gold brooches are pinned to my underwear and to my brother's nappies. Mom, ask no questions. I wonder why a barrel of butter is standing broad heaped in the passageway of the train and knock at our door. From the top bunk, I see Dad hand over his passport with some banknotes inside. The guard slides the money into his breast pocket, salutes, and leaves. We reach Vienna. Mom and Dad embrace, scull a shot of vodka. I weep. I have lost everything. They say we left the Iron Curtain behind. What Iron Curtain? I didn't see any curtains. Mom, it describes countries ruled by iron-fisted leaders who punish anyone who criticizes them. Me, but if Poland is that bad, why aren't all our friends living too? Dead. Oh, Mom, it's not easy to start life all over again. Dead. I don't want you to experience anti-Semitism. I don't know what that means. Dead. It means prejudice against the Jews. I'm Jewish. Me. Dead. You killed Jesus Christ. He blinks and shakes his head. Dear child, he says, I've never even met the man. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I've got those seven. Okay, school. I'm informed too. Miss Taylor asks us to dust the bookshelves. Why would she want us to do that? They're dusty already. Looking at Mount Kościuszko, I tell the class it's pronounced Kościuszko, not Kosciuszko, named after a Polish freedom fighter. Miss Taylor, that's not how we say it here. Sit down, Eva. Maureen asks to share her lunch with me, says her mother has packed some nice hot dogs. I'm nearly sick when she says that. Lorraine makes fun of my accent. She pretends to talk like me, making ugly faces. Lorraine, go back where you came from. Oh, that's nice of you to see, I miss Poland. Me, thank you, I wish I could. She screws up her face. Thank you. Christmas. Christmas lunch is at Jill's, an Australian girl. The invitation says, Mr. and Mrs. James Brown cordially invite you to our home for a barbecue. Me, gosh, I didn't know your mom's first name was the same as your dad's. Jill laughs, no, it's not. I introduce my parents. Dad kisses Jill's mother's hand. I nearly die of embarrassment. So does Jill's mother, I think. Grilled sausages and salad are followed by 100 helpings of mouth-watering pavlova. My parents bring herring in oil and Kugelhof cake. The cake is gone in no time, but the herring stays on. St. Kilda. On Sundays, my parents meet their Polish friends on St. Kilda Beach. Dad shakes hands with Janek, Marek, and Franek. Starts a discussion on business and politics. Mom kisses Bella, Fella, and Hella. Out comes the coconut butter for that golden Hawaiian tan. Men with their chest puffed out swoop on women who need a light. Women squeezed into swimsuits parade like seals along the pier, avoid men's eyes diving into their cleavages. They dip their toes in the water, then swim breaststroke, not to smudge the mascara. They wear rubber caps with quivering flowers, each thinking they are the next Esther Williams. Only Fellini is missing. Thank you. I'm back in Poland, and I feel very emotional. I eat Poland, drink Poland, breathe Poland in. Wherever I go, it goes with me. I see it, it looks at me. I hear it, it speaks to me. I smell it, it surrounds me. I say it, it talks back to me. I touch it, and it touches me back. I take a tram, get jostled with others. I go to an outdoor concert. I merge into the crowd. You can't tell me apart from the others. If I could read you just, have I got time for one more, a funny one?
No.
No? A quick one, quick.
Okay.
All right. Very quick. This is real story, socializing. My friends and I go body surfing, practice rock and roll moves, lose our voices at football matches. I take them to the local synagogue, which holds dances on Saturday night. Chubby Checker and the Twist are all their age. One word from his mouth sends our bunch into wild dancing. The best of us do it on one foot. Some lose their balance, twist their ankles, and fall. That night, wanting to impress a boy, I keep going full blast. Then the music slows down. Everyone stops, but I keep going. Aware all eyes are on me, I add the occasional sidekick to spice up my moves. The boy I like taps me on the shoulder. He says, "You're dancing to Israel's national anthem." Anya, Jill, and Maureen stand in front of me so I don't have to face the crowd. Next day we meet at the beach, eat ice cream, and laugh about the night before. Thank you.
You get no questions.
Okay.
Okay. I want to introduce Louise Helfgott over here. She first proclaimed that she was going to be a writer when she was 5 years old. She argued with her father, who wanted her to be a concert pianist, like her brother. She would drag books out onto the porch from the age of 3. She never felt that she chose to be a writer, but that it chose her. Louise is also passionate about fighting racism and is the coordinator of a group called the Kulbardis Talking, a platform for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal women to collaborate. Louise would like to read for us now.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. So the first poem I'm reading today is called Who Blows the Shofar at Cochin, and it was inspired by a trip to Cochin. Who blows the shofar at Cochin? Not I, nor you. Is it he who stands behind the curtain and waits for a sign that it's time to start the minyan? Who blows the shofar at Cochin? Who lights the menorah? At Passover, who is there to read the Torah? There's no young boy to ask why, only an old man who's forgotten the answers. Who blows the shofar at Cochin? How far from Mauthausen, Mattencherry, no German trains from Jewtown. They sought refuge with the fisherfolk long ago, always harmonious with their Hindu neighbours. Who blows the shofar at Cochin? For Cochin now resounds with the call of the conch shell, and Chinese fishing nets dip low into the water. The minarets drone summoning the Muslims, and church bells ring drawing the Christians. But who blows the shofar at Cochin? Not enough to form a minyan. Who will mourn their passing? After 2,000 years, only 27 remaining. Soon to pass from this dominion, who blows the shofar at Cochin? This poem is called I Live for You, and it was inspired by a trip to Europe, thinking about my ancestors. I live for you, who died, silent and suffocating in the death chamber. My luck is commensurate with your misfortune. Your cries of hopelessness and terror goad me to greater hope and courage. You were my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, sisters, brothers I never knew. But for you, I may not be here. You shared the source of your life, then died quietly, gasping for air in the airless chamber. You who breathed zest and love had no breath left. I hold, wrapped up in each tiny atom, each molecule of my breath, you, your hopes and ambitions, your successes and defeats, a portion of your perennial soul. I live that you did not die in vain. I live that you may live again. Life cut short by butchery repeats itself to complete the unfulfilled dream. I live for you, my silent kin. And this poem has got multiple meanings apparently, but the meaning that I invested in it was about wanting to follow one's own path, one's own destiny. And it's called A Distant Violin. I heard a distant violin singing through the trees, wafting with the wind, serenading silent listeners who soared on tremulous wings into a starry reverie. I heard a different violin everywhere I wandered, stumbling on rambling vines, stringy tree ferns clinging, strangling equanimity in the wilderness of mind. I heard a distant violin summoning from afar an orchestra of stars with birdsong arias, trilling resonant melodies, resin for untuned strings. I heard a different violin, a different song from the one you composed on piano and paper. Many singers you conducted, but mine was sung alone. I heard a distant violin whistling through the reeds, but you heard it not. Seeing only difference of instrument, you failed to notice how similar the tune. And the last one is called Undiminished, and it's a protest about being, what can I say, forgotten, locked away, whatever. So it's called Undiminished. I will not fade like the paling of sunset or the rose bloom drooping, its blood-red petal veins bursting in early death. Nor will I trail away like a comet dying, diminished by sunlight. Nor will I be in exile, hiding. No, I shan't begin to disappear in the absence of your approval. Not seeking its false comfort, I'll not notice its removal. But stand upright to your ire. Yes, I'll face the furnace fire. Let it strengthen my steel resolve. No, I'll not fade like a shadow. I'll not dissolve, but solidify into cement my determined intent. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to leave all the questions till the end, if we have time. And I'm going to introduce Alex Skovron, who's been awarded the Patrick White and too many honours to name here. He also has a wicked sense of humour that belies the neat V-neck jumpers and plaid caps. His creative output has included ridiculously creative offspring, paintings, photographs and writings across genres. He won't let me get away with anything, including problematic punctuation and ADHD excuses. Also, despite my role as moderator here, he has certainly not let me dictate to him in any way about anything. Alex.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Josh. Memo. Please don't worry about the dishwasher. I had to dismantle it. The cutlery keeps getting jammed inside. From now on, I'll be washing up by hand. There's not much point in calling the mechanic who used to fix our appliances. I've disconnected the tumble dryer that was eating our underwear. And the fridge that shifted slightly at night, always an inch out in the morning, looking innocent as if nothing had happened, I've retired to the garage. I've also taken the liberty of decommissioning the vacuum cleaner. It was beginning to play up, swallowing up too many memories left carelessly lying around. The next poem is from my next book, hopefully, which is a collection of prose and verse narratives. And this is, the title of this poem is the first line. The girl talks to trees in the park, speaks to stones in her garden, chats with the toys in her room. She feels for everything, believes deep down that all things are aware, even those we dismiss as inanimate. Lately she's been entranced by matches and candles. She feels sorrow when a candle burns down. It's like dying, she says. She regrets the melted wax and the smoke. Where does it go? The woman, accustomed to her granddaughter's gentle, endearing ways, never mocks her questions or naysays her certainties. She sits at the kitchen table, watching, listening. The girl reminds her of another girl, almost the same age. She nods at the youngster. She understands. She too would like to know where the smoke goes, where all the smoke went. The next poem comes from my latest collection, Letters from the Periphery, and it's called Carousel Days. It's set at university, during my university days. One of the subjects I studied was astronomy, which was part of history and philosophy of science in first year. And on occasion, we'd go up to the roof of one of the high-rise buildings on campus, and a tutor would show us the starry sky and talk about astronomy and cosmology. Carousel Days. And one evening, constellating the dots from the top deck of civil engineering, my gaze skimmed beyond Delta Orionis, and I suddenly detected a tiny shifting of the sky's slant, an opening that said, "Look hard enough into us drizzling stars, and you will discover more of yourself than if you drank from an endless chalice of the choicest rum." And I forgot about the fragrant maiden 18 next to me, myself only just crossing 20. Forgot the spring night's rooftop seminar, transit of the morning star, all the lecture notes folded in my bag, the poems fattening my little black book with the bright red spine, and I stared like some ridiculously transported thing. A boyhood disturbed for a mere moment and twisted some key, glimpsing a doorway to a language meant he was certain for him alone. And each waking minute in carousel days to come, he would search to regain it, to translate what upon that star-struck roof had stung his soul. He's there still, translating it yet. And this is a short poem from my collection of sonatinas, which are 10-line sonnets, collection called Infinite City. This is called Almost. There is a quiet substance to things, the way the world fits together in spite of itself. You feel it when driving encapsulated in the rain, slipping into a silent hospital at night, or scanning half-familiar faces on the screen that almost return your strange satellite gaze. There is a substance also to emptiness, but it can never truly be exchanged with another, like an absence or the impulse to despair at the hole in the universe that your substance almost fills. And lastly, this is a ghazal. Ghazals are 7th century Arabic poetic form. They originated there, and they are characterized by a certain style with rhythm and rhyme and repetition, and they're sort of a blend of the personal and the universal. I guess there are two words that recur in each couplet. It's written in couplets, and they're like echoes anchoring the poem, if you like. So, shadow world. Say the end of the world fell on a Saturday, would it then remain that Saturday forever? Or what if one grey morning you woke up to find the world was not the same, but had changed forever? That suddenly your life, the world you knew so well, was not the life you thought would be yours forever. Or that those dear to you, both close and far away, were part of your world no longer, lost forever. Would you retreat into the world of your small room, your even smaller bed, and lie down forever? Or would you curse your fate and rail against your God, then pray for your world to be restored forever? Maybe you'd fling your fist, defy the world's new face, resolve to conquer fate if it took forever. Or what if abruptly an endless night time fell, not on the world, but on your spirit, forever? Would you yearn for a day your shadow world might burst free of its nightmare, pledging a flesh forever? Or would you look around and for the first time see that though the world had altered, now was forever, that the whole world was now, and now was what you were, and it was always now, and would be forever? For as I write these lines, it's Saturday no more, and the world keeps turning, now, if not forever.
Thank you, Alex. Really beautiful. I think of performance poetry as work that lends itself to lifting from the page and floating through a space. I grasp at humour. I enjoy the welcome change from having to worry about line endings and commas because you, my audience, can't see them. Alex told me that I was on my own when I asked his advice about what to read today. So here goes. I'm just going to read one poem. And then if we've got time, we'll go to questions. Morning glory, rise and shine, new day dawns. I shuffle kettlewoods and shrug into my deep red bedraggled robe. All that talk of menopause catching at my heels, my girlfriend's go-to subject over coffee, cocktails, fusion dinners, moaning full shares and posts about dry vaginas, insomnia, blotched crimson sweats in public. I worry about contagion. I want to go on and on being ossified, sturdy, interested in sex and temperature controlled, but my broken sleep might preempt bloodlessness. I prise open my laptop to write, to self-soothe, an email slashes, a tirade, a long lash of demands, threats from my ex's pitbull lawyer, tedious and time-consuming, as though I've empty hours, extra eons in between mothering, writing, conducting myriad love affairs. And I'm discomforted when my son drifts in, turns the TV on, up, loud. Wildlife exploited for tanned, untamed tourists. Crazed bear cub rocks. Woozy velvet tiger lols. Cut. Dr. Phil interviews pale middle-aged wife. She's done decades inside cagey coercion, under control, has yet to explore 5 senses, her options. She stagnates. True, she didn't say no. She didn't say anything. Now she prizes up the edges of that lid, wants to read the memo taped to its underside, a definition of consent in dot points, scrawled in black permanent marker, and I'm lunging for the off switch, but the shrapnel's already embedded in bone. Toxins cross squamous cell membranes. There's no escape, and there's no soy milk for coffee. So when the others tumble into the kitchen, I'm homogenous, one part only, consistent, pure. No appetite for breakfast battles, misplaced socks, schedules. I submit to outpourings of Cocoa Pops. The kids gape, devour the overflow. Thank you. Have we got time for questions?
It's 15:15.
We've got 5 minutes. Okay, so I guess, does Eva deserve a question?
Yes, she does.
She does? You think she does? I wanted to ask how you sustain the voice of that adolescent girl the way you do, all the way through the narrative.
It wasn't hard. I think when your memory is clear, and it's clear because when you're very young, you observe a lot and it's unfiltered. And you have also very strong emotions because you're all the time trying to make sense of the world. So this is the part that's very easy to catch on to because, like I said, it's nothing else spoils it. Nothing else interprets it. You react with your whole body, with your whole mind. So it's very, very easy to remember it.
Okay. I've got a question for Louise. I wanted to ask about the poem I Live For You. The title seems to be juxtaposed against the many references to suffocation, such as gasping, these are quotes, no breath left, and my silent kin. How does this contrast work towards a tragic power in this piece?
So I was acutely aware of I was thinking about the last final moments of relatives in gas chambers, and I think the juxtaposition works because of celebrating the fact that I'm alive and that I can be here against what they missed out on and the loss of their lives. So it's like, black is only black because of its contrast to white. Joy is only joy because of its contrast to despair. So that's why I think it works.
Thank you. Alex, I wanted to ask you, when you wrote that ghazal, why you chose that poetic form to encompass those ideas and emotions.
Yeah. Sometimes forms choose me, actually, in some ways. I guess the idea comes first, and I started jotting down the first lines that were the trigger for that idea. And as I went on very quickly, I realized that it had to have a kind of an invocative character, the sense of invocation, the rhythm and the singing quality needed to have a repetitive sort of undercurrent running through it. And that it seemed to me that the ghazal form allowed for this to happen by the use of those two repeated words in every stanza, in every couplet, sort of a building up both a sense of expectation and a sense of preordained ending. Because the ghazal works towards, usually, traditionally the ghazal finishes with a personal statement from the poet, even with the name of the poet. In my case, I use the first person, implicitly or explicitly, but it was my reflection on myself and on Saturday still becoming Sunday. The world continues. And I guess it goes back to what Maggie was saying earlier about the small and the big. As you spoke, it occurred to me that all the poems I read have this juxtaposition between the large and the small. That there's the world and there's the forever, the small world and the massive forever. You know, there's the little girl and her grandmother, the little candle and the implications of that. There's the boy up on top of the building looking at the huge universe and having a personal epiphany, which is totally within himself, and so on. I think poetry is very well tailored to bring out those kinds of ideas and the feelings just by reconciling and also opposing the universal and the particular as seen through the prism of the personal.
I also wonder whether using that ghazal form, being such an ancient form, you've got modern and ancient, also colliding, the moment, the now of the present, of the writing of the poem and the ancient form that you are structuring it in.
I hadn't thought of it like that. That's very true, yes.
I also thought your ending, forever, forever, also points to the inevitability of fate.
Yes, yes. And every forever have a different sense in that poem.
That's right.
But whichever way you look at it, it's all going the same way.
And it's inevitable.
So there's a fatalism about the ghazal. That's often the case in that sort of poetry.
Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.